have to point fingers. Well, my response to that is, bless their hearts, I hope the Lord burns them good and gets their eyes open. Because that's not what it's all about. And it bothers me when people want to label Christianity under that category. Because it just ain't so. It's just not so. It's just not so. The four sayings of the palsied man arise. I want us to notice Jesus said, thy sins be forgiven thee. To the Jewish leaders, this was blasphemy. And can you imagine the stirring that caused? Claiming to do something that only God could do. Would people not have a heyday with that today? According to the law, the punishment for this sin was death. I'm sure they were right there, first in line, with their long noses, to let him know. You just blaspheme! You know that means death? The religious leaders understood correctly that Jesus was claiming divine prerogatives. But their judgment was what was wrong. We need to be careful, don't we? Amen. We need to be careful. Jesus wasn't blaspheming. His claim was true. Jesus is God. And he proved his claim by healing the man with the palsy. This is the first time in Mark that Jesus calls himself the Son of Man. A little emphasizing that Jesus is fully human. His title, Son of God, emphasizes that he's fully God. As God the Son, Jesus has the authority to forgive sin. As a man, he can identify with our deepest needs and our sufferings and help us to overcome sin. Jesus, as man, suffered persecution. He suffered ridicule. Even when his intentions were good, just like here, they criticized him. They said he ought to be put to death for what he's been blaspheming. He didn't have any intention of being cruel. He wanted this man's sin to know this man's sins could be forgiven. And then he could heal him. You know what? I think so many times, and I never, ever want to be guilty of discouraging individuals from coming to an altar for healing. But I think one of the first things that needs to take priority before they're ever anointed is to make sure that spiritually their sins are forgiven first. Now, I've had people argue that point with me. I won't go into tug-of-war discussions over religion. But in my heart, I don't believe God's going to heal someone that has sin. But I do believe that if that individual repents of their sin, God can heal all at the same time. And I believe this was the situation with this man with the palsy. If he came as a sinner, I believe God forgave him of the sins and then healed his palsy. You and I can and have overcome sin. We're facing a world tonight that's full of sin. We come in contact every day with individuals that are sick spiritually. The last thing they need to add to their frustration is a critical tone. God help us to have the kind of compassion and have the kind of love to reach out and to help. You know, it's easy. It's easy sometimes, especially when you're feeling bad, to be quick to respond. And it happens because that's human nature. But you know what I find? I find when it does happen, if we're where we need to be, God will immediately check us.
Yes, sir.
And we'll know. And we'll go back and we'll make it right then. Too many have drifted so far from where they started that when they speak with that sharp tongue and God tries to check them, they override it. They override it and just keep going. It's a concern, isn't it? But let's hold on. Let's hold on. Let's ask God this week, what would you have me do? Father, how can I be used in your hands? Who am I going to come in contact with tomorrow? And what can I say that will encourage them? Help me forget about me. And help me to focus on those I'm going to come in contact with. You might be surprised. You might be surprised what your walk is doing for another individual. You don't have to say a word to them. Just your walk can be the Bible that they're reading. Let's stand.